right, let's talk about the political effects of immigration. Um, so, as more and more immigrants are coming into this country, it creates an opportunity for politicians to kind of take advantage of this. New people coming in, they don't know the land, they don't know the territory, they don't know the politics. So, if they can help out these immigrants in any means or any way, they are going to ensure themselves some votes down the road. Also influencing immigration is going to be the nativists, groups of people that don't want to see the immigrants sway politicians or have such a large influence over the political structures and the voting patterns. They want to keep, sort of that American sort of native-born American influence in politics and keep them in power. So they would implement poll taxes and literacy tests, much like they did during Reconstruction to prevent blacks from voting. They're using those same tactics to keep immigrants from voting as well. We also see the rise of political machines. Political machines is just referring to like the political operations, how the governments are working at the local levels. One of the more infamous political machines was Tammany Hall out of New York City, run by the Democrats. Very powerful political structure. It utilized, giving favors and kickbacks to immigrants in return in exchange for their votes. So they would help provide jobs, they would provide food, the basic essentials that immigrants need when they first get here. Again, they don't know where to go, where to find jobs, and the political machines were often there to kind of guide them to get them on their feet. And in return for this, they gained political loyalty. So a lot of the political machines are using sort of unfair practices, a lot of shady and corrupt political tactics to sort of maintain this power as well. So it's not just about doing favors for immigrants, but a lot of corruption as well in these political machines. William Boss Tweed was the most influential Tammany boss, the guy who's in charge of the political machine. And literally, Tammany Hall had control of New York City from about the 1850s to 1871. Um, the development of the urban portions of our country is also prominent during this time period. Um, you know, the regions that we see the most development of the urban areas are in the Northeast and in the Midwest. That's traditionally where our industrial sectors have always been. Think of the canals and the railway networks. Of course, it just seems natural that industry is going to develop around those areas because there's easy access to transportation. Therefore, the immigrants are going to gravitate towards those regions because they want quick, easy access to those jobs. Typically, the immigrants are moving to the big industrial cities to be closer to their work. Um, we also see this mass migration of blacks from the South migrating to the North as well. So not only do we have this immigration from Southern and Eastern Europe, but we also have migration from the South, blacks leaving the South to find opportunities in the North. Life in the city is, I mean, there's good parts to it and there's bad parts to it too. There, like I just mentioned, there's job opportunities. You're close to your job. However, the places in where you're living are not always the most sanitary or healthiest places to live because you're working next to those industrial sectors. You're working next to the factories. There's a lot of smog. There's a lot of pollution. There's a lot of noise. Um, the housing options are pretty limited. You can live in tenements, these really crowded apartments. There's row houses, which you can see here. It's just literally house next to house, wall after wall. It's very crowded living space. When you get more crowding, you get more easily disease spread more easily. You get more pollution, more unsanitary conditions in the cities themselves. Um, Eventually, by the late 1800s, they start to create laws to prevent or to curb the amount of pollution and um, sanitation issues because there were quite a bit. And the more dirty your streets are, the more animal waste. Again, like in the late 1800s, we're still using a lot of horse and buggy at this point, so there's a lot of animal waste in the streets. Uh, so we start to figure out like, hey, this is very unhealthy to live in. We need to do something to clean up the cities. Um, we start to get like sanitation departments, government agencies managing the cleaning of the cities. Plumbing gets better. Garbage removal gets way better. But these are all issues that were problematic living in the city. You know, sewers were blocked up constantly. The smell was horrendous. I mean, picture a crowded city in the hot summer with all the smells and stench of animal waste, dead animals, and just garbage. It's not pleasant. Um, but again, that's just kind of part of living in the city. Yes, you're close to your job, and there's all the other cultural elements that the city provides, but then there's also the downside to it too. Like I mentioned, disease spread pretty easily in the cities: cholera, yellow fever, tuberculosis. Those were all pretty common. Um, the infant mortality rate was pretty high. Like most 25% of babies born in the late 1800s would die before turning one. So, those sort of numbers were alarming, and it kind of prompted people to make changes about the sanitary conditions in which people were living in. There were also efforts to improve the drinking water quality, bringing in more water lines, getting that sewage issue kind of squared away, indoor plumbing, making that more accessible, introducing water filtration, chlorine to purify the water. All of these things came about as a result of the problems of urbanization. Another big problem is the increase in crime. Many people took advantage of the job opportunities, but many could not find jobs, and those people tended to resort to the criminal life. It was easier and more convenient to just rob people than it was to actually go out and get a job. So crime was an issue, and then with the rise of crime, we start to see the rise of police forces and better police tactics and techniques. Electricity is also developed in the late 1800s, and that replaces kerosene. That's cleaner, more efficient. You don't have to worry about fires as much with electricity. Um, the quality of buildings got better too. And of course, you get lots of social reform movements, people looking to develop housing, make housing more affordable, provide safe houses for the poor and the migrants, getting people, established when they first get off the boat. They don't know where to go. They don't have a place to live. These settlement houses would sort of help them transition from, coming over from Europe, getting to America. Here's a place where you can live, get a hot meal. We'll help you find a job so we can transition you into becoming like a productive member of society.